He did a version of Stairway that had a choir and an orchestra, and then after the guitar, well, it was with the...
In the shadowy corners of rock and roll history lurked a guitar god with standards as impossibly high as his towering amplifier stacks. In the shadowy corners of rock and roll history lurked a guitar god with standards as impossibly high as his towering amplifier stacks. Jimmy Page, the mystical mastermind behind Led Zeppelin's thunderous sound, wasn't merely a revolutionary guitarist who transformed blues into heavy metal magic. He was also a man who harbored some seriously bitter grudges against his most celebrated musical peers. Welcome to Rock Rivalries Uncovered, where today we're exploring the dark side of Jimmy Page and the 6 legendary guitarists who reportedly earned his notorious contempt. Coming in at number 6 on our countdown is a name that might genuinely surprise you: Ritchie Blackmore. The theatrical Deep Purple and rainbow guitarist with his medieval obsession reportedly earned Jimmy Page's bitter resentment despite their shared role in creating the hard rock revolution. The rivalry allegedly began in the early 1970s when both guitarists were being hailed as pioneers of heavy music. According to rock journalist Jeff Barton, Page allegedly told session musicians at Olympic Studios that Blackmore thinks every song needs a bloody sword fight, claiming the man confuses volume with passion. What bothered Page wasn't just Blackmore's playing, but his entire approach to performance. While Page crafted mystical atmospheres and dynamic song structures, Blackmore was finding massive success with what Page reportedly called Renaissance fair nonsense. Page allegedly told a German music magazine in 1975 that there are guitarists who serve the song, and there are guitarists who make the song serve them, without naming names. But studio insiders claimed the comment was aimed directly at Blackmore's theatrical showmanship. At a London recording session in 1974, witnesses claimed Page deliberately walked out when Blackmore arrived, allegedly muttering to his roadie that he didn't have time for costume parties. Eddie Van Halen. Landing at number 5 is a rivalry that shook the guitar world to its very core. Eddie Van Halen, the Dutch-American virtuoso who revolutionized rock guitar with his explosive finger-tapping technique, reportedly became one of Jimmy Page's most bitter professional enemies during the late 1970s guitar revolution. The feud allegedly ignited after Van Halen's explosive debut album in 1978 sent shockwaves through the rock establishment. According to Guitar World editor Brad Tolinsky, Page reportedly told colleagues at a London pub that anyone can learn parlor tricks, declaring that real guitar playing comes from the heart, not from showing off like a circus performer. The dismissive comment allegedly reached Eddie's ears within weeks. What infuriated Page wasn't just Eddie's innovative tapping technique, but what it represented for guitar music's future. While Page had built his reputation on bluesy soul and mystical atmosphere, Van Halen was achieving massive success with what Page reportedly called athletic guitar playing. Page allegedly told a backstage interviewer in 1979 that there's a difference between playing guitar and playing with a guitar, without mentioning names. But industry veterans knew exactly who he meant. The tension reportedly reached its breaking point at a Los Angeles recording studio in 1980, where witnesses claimed Page abruptly ended a conversation when someone mentioned Van Halen's groundbreaking Eruption solo, allegedly snapping that he'd heard enough about bedroom noodling for one lifetime. Crashing in at number 4 is perhaps the most explosive personality clash on our entire list. Yngwie Malmsteen. The Swedish neoclassical metal virtuoso with an ego as massive as his guitar solos reportedly drove Jimmy Page to absolute fury with his Baroque-influenced shredding and outrageous public statements. The animosity allegedly began in the mid-1980s when Malmsteen burst onto the scene, claiming to be the greatest guitarist who ever lived. According to Metal Hammer journalist Malcolm Dome, Page reportedly told friends at a charity event that this Swedish peacock thinks Bach wrote power chords, claiming the man has confused technique with music itself. The scathing assessment allegedly circulated through European music circles like wildfire. What pushed Page over the edge wasn't just Yngwie's technical prowess, but his complete dismissal of blues-based rock tradition. While Page had spent years perfecting the art of dynamic songwriting, Malmsteen was achieving cult status with what Page reportedly called classical music rape. Page allegedly told a Swedish journalist in 1987 that some people think more notes equals more music, adding that they're usually the same people who think louder equals better. The situation reportedly exploded at a guitar expo in 1988, where industry insiders claim Page walked out during Malmsteen's performance, allegedly telling security that he didn't need to watch someone practice scales for 20 minutes. The Swedish maestro had struck the one nerve that could turn rock's most mystical figure into its most vengeful critic. Sliding into number 3 is a feud that split British rock royalty down the middle. Keith Richards, the immortal Rolling Stones guitarist, and Jimmy Page's bitter rivalry reportedly stretched across decades, fueled by professional jealousy, personal slights, and fundamentally different philosophies about rock and roll's very soul. The bad blood allegedly started in the late 1960s when both bands were climbing the charts simultaneously. According to Rolling Stone journalist Robert Greenfield, Page reportedly told studio engineers that Keith thinks 5 chords make him Chuck Berry, claiming the man wouldn't recognize a melody if it bit him on his weathered posterior. The brutal assessment allegedly reached Richards within days through London's tight-knit music scene. What made this feud particularly venomous was their competing claims to blues authenticity. While Page crafted elaborate arrangements and mystical atmospheres, Richards was achieving legendary status with what Page reportedly called 3-chord primitivism. Page allegedly told NME in 1973 that anyone can bash out satisfaction, claiming that real musicianship requires more than stumbling through the same riff for 50 years. The animosity reportedly reached nuclear levels during a 1975 backstage encounter at Madison Square Garden, where witnesses claim Richards deliberately ignored Page's extended hand, allegedly muttering that he doesn't shake hands with thieves. The two titans had turned rock guitar into a war between raw authenticity and elaborate artistry. Burning into number 2 is the most shocking revelation on our list: Jimi Hendrix. Yes, the guitar god himself allegedly became the target of Jimmy Page's deepest professional jealousy and resentment, despite Hendrix's tragic death in 1970, cutting short what could have been rock's greatest rivalry. The tension reportedly began in 1967 when Hendrix exploded onto the London scene, immediately overshadowing Page's session work and early Yardbird's success. According to rock historian Charles Shaar Murray, Page allegedly told close friends that this American comes over here and suddenly everyone forgets who was playing guitar before he arrived, dismissing Hendrix as all flash and feedback while questioning where the musicianship was. What truly ate at Page was Hendrix's instant acclaim and innovative approach. While Page had been methodically building his reputation through technical precision and blues mastery, Hendrix achieved legendary status with what Page reportedly called controlled chaos. Page allegedly told a journalist in 1969 that some people think breaking guitars makes you a genius, declaring that real musicians don't need pyrotechnics. The rivalry reportedly turned personal when both guitarists were linked to the same London music scene figures. Industry insiders claim Page became increasingly paranoid that Hendrix was deliberately upstaging him, allegedly telling bandmates that he was trying to make everyone forget there were guitarists before him. Even after Hendrix's death, Page allegedly couldn't let go of the jealousy, reportedly dismissing Hendrix's legacy as overrated theater in private conversations. Taking the top spot in our countdown is the ultimate British blues betrayal: Eric Clapton.
Everyone turns to see this beautiful.
The man once called God by his devoted fans allegedly became Jimmy Page's most hated rival, through a combination of professional competition, personal betrayals, and what Page reportedly saw as shameless credit stealing that lasted for decades. The feud's roots allegedly trace back to the mid-1960s London blues scene, where both guitarists were competing for the same session work and band opportunities. According to music journalist Chris Welch, Page reportedly told studio musicians that Eric plays the same 3 blues licks and everyone calls him a god, supposing that mediocrity sells better than innovation. The devastating assessment allegedly spread through London's tight-knit music community like wildfire. The breaking point reportedly came when Clapton recruited drummer Jim Gordon, who had been collaborating with Page on session work. Sources claim Page felt personally betrayed, allegedly telling confidants that Eric builds his career on other people's talent because he doesn't have enough of his own. The animosity reached nuclear levels during the 1970s when both men achieved superstar status. Industry veterans claim Page became obsessed with proving his superiority over Clapton, allegedly declaring at a private party that the difference between Eric and me is that I create music while he just copies it louder. The final nail in the coffin reportedly came when Clapton publicly praised blues legends while subtly dismissing Led Zeppelin's heavier approach. Page allegedly responded by calling Clapton a blues museum curator who had never written an original idea in his life. And there you have it, the 6 guitarists who reportedly made Jimmy Page see red. From theatrical showmanship to technical wizardry, from blues purism to neoclassical excess, each rivalry revealed different facets of Page's complex personality and uncompromising artistic vision. These weren't just musical disagreements, but deeply personal battles that shaped the competitive landscape of rock guitar for generations. Which feud shocked you most? The stories behind these legendary conflicts remind us that even guitar gods have their breaking points.